Why can't politics fix climate change?
Well, because politics doesn't fix anything. That much we know. You know, you give power to the state. What does the state do? It abuses it. It uses it in stupid ways. I say this both of the left and the right. Do you know this person, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez?
Woo!
You know her,
Woo!
right? Right? Right. So she comes out with her Green New Deal, and it's like, oh, give me power, and I'll take away your ability to travel in airplanes. I'll slaughter all the cows, mandate the reconstruction of every building in the United States, and then eliminate CO2 emissions. I mean, this is the same woman who doesn't know what a garbage disposal is. You know, this is really true. She found one in her home, didn't know what it was panicked. This is the most terrifying central planner. You do not want to give people like this power. But I tell you, there's problems on the other side too, right? I'm even more afraid of what Trump is doing to international trade with his tariffs. My point is, power corrupts. And if we're going to solve the climate change problem, which it is a problem, it's going to happen through technology, through commerce, through trade and innovation. That's the way all of our environmental problems have always been solved. And here's my concern, and you're wanting to stop me, but I'm going to take 2 more seconds to summarize very quickly what we're dealing with, right? We are living through times of extraordinary growth, collapses in infant mortality. Lives are getting longer, incomes are growing, globalization has been a blessing in your lives. These are revolutionary and beautiful times, but you know what it's doing? It's giving rise to reactionary forces on the left and on the right who are trying to shut it down, the same way they did in the 19th century. I'm telling you, we need to fight this, we need to stop this, to continue the Belle Epoque of laissez-faire and freedom for all. That's the only answer, not only for your life, but for the climate too. That's the end.
That's all.
Yeah. So I would agree on that statement. Yeah, we need freedom, and we have to defend freedom. But are we really free? And what is freedom? My freedom stops when your freedom starts. And this economic system, what we develop, called capitalism and productivism, this Western model of society based on oil, based on growth, based on always more, is it really freedom? We are living under the addiction to growth. Different type of addictions. Our economic models need growth or die. Culturally, we need growth, we need always more, always bigger, always stronger, or we feel like frustrated. Is it really freedom? Freedom comes from the fact that we are able to reappropriate what's really meaningful. And there are limits to growth. Collapse has already started. I'm sorry to say, don't kill the messenger. I will be a messenger today. Based on my research as an engineer and dealing with degrowth for more than 10 years, there is an acceleration of the collapse of our thermo-industrial civilization. You heard about climate change. You heard about biodiversity loss. Maybe you heard less about scarcity of resources, what we have all around us. We rely on fossil energy. More than 80% of everything which is around us is based on fossil energy. It's based mostly on oil. And we are about to reach a peak of production of oil. We have an economic system which is about to explode again, even worse than 2008 crisis. So we are reaching the limits of our model of society from a physical point of view, from an economic point of view, and I would say, and I will keep on going later on that, from a cultural point of view. We have to reappropriate freedom in being able to assume type of frugality, to enjoy life.
Jeffrey.
Let me just put it this way. I think it's very normal for people to want a better life and for you to stand and urge everybody to live less well. I think it's a very uncomfortable position to be in. So in some sense, I congratulate you, but I don't wish you success. And,
and I appreciate it.
Nor do I think you can succeed, because everything you said is empirically incorrect, actually. I mean, no, it's just wrong. I was just wrong. 20 years ago, we were hearing about peak oil. Oh, we're running out of oil. Back in those days, you and your friends wanted to tax oil because you thought there's gonna be a scarcity of oil. That didn't happen. Through shale oil technology, now there's more oil than ever. The prices are falling. You know how you can tell if a shortage is coming? You know, there's a surefire way. Watch the prices. The price system tells you about relative scarcities. You can trust the intellectuals, or you can trust the market to tell you whether or not we're getting more or getting less. The commodity prices around the world are on the decline everywhere. The prices of everything are falling thanks to globalization, trade, and that lovely force of liberation in the world, capitalism. I'm sorry you don't like it, but our standard of living are rising because of the freedom that, yes, we are experiencing. The freedom to buy things and to trade is not an illusion, all right? It's real. It's the way we work out our dignity and humanity in the world. And I'm not saying there aren't problems. There are plenty of problems. I'm saying that the answers are going to be found through technology. And one final point about frugality. I don't disagree about this, actually. I think people are far too in debt. I mean, I come from the United States, the land of indebtedness. It's pathetic and outrageous. I think we can fix this problem through making individual changes in our lives, uncluttering our apartments. If that's what you're in favor of, I agree with you. Live with less, travel more lightly, that's great. But I don't think that's what you're really saying. You're advocating something that's quite, frankly, terrifying to me. It's like a macroeconomic solution to impose poverty where there's prosperity. That's a really nice luxury for men and women of the first world. Not so much for people around the world who are still struggling out of poverty.
That's all. Right to reply.
Yeah. Illusion of freedom. Illusion of freedom that the society we live in. We have this illusion to be free to go to a supermarket, to go to a shop, and to buy anything. I also do it myself. I'm not here with a moralist statement. But we do it because we never face what the reality or what is behind this illusion of freedom. We buy mobile phones, smart technologies. We are all addicted to that. We love that. But would we do it if we had the extractivism you need to extract the materials you need to construct this mobile phone in our garden? Will we do it? It's a big lie. It's exploitation. Exploitation of human beings. We are all afraid of the refugees and everything, but suddenly the people we exploit for decades came to knock at our door, so we had to open our eyes that there is something happening on the other side of the world with wars, with extractivism, with exploitation and everything. And it's also this idea of environmental footprint. Even a poor person in US, in France, in Hungary, has an environmental footprint which is not sustainable. More than 3 planets, because we developed a way of life which is not based on solidarity, not based on conviviality, not based on enjoyment of life, but based on always consume more, with advertisements which are using very well-elaborated tools about how our brain is working, about psychology, about psychological sociology, to manipulate us, to frustrate us, to make us desire even more and more things what we don't really need. And I invite you to question yourself, what's the most important things in your life? I would say that you would, taking time, drinking a beer with your friend, questioning that, or with your family, end up with what's the conclusion of the people, even in particular the richest people, what they say when they are about to die. It was friendship, it was love, it was the relationship with the children, the relationship with the parents. It was a good time what we will have later today, having a drink, having a good chat, and so on. You don't need to destroy the planet. You don't need to always work more, to consume more, to destroy more, to enjoy life. So go back to enjoyment of life.
That was... So... why am I losing this debate? That was a very lovely
fake news.
Very lovely vision of friends meeting. And I completely agree, but I thought it was very interesting you said, over a beer. Over drinks, you said. Where are we going to get the beer? Who's going to make it? Where are we going to buy it from? Who's going to sell it? Who's going to take the risk? Where's the structure of production to make the aluminum, to get the hops, to make the long-term investments, to transport it around the world? Beer is a commodity. And it enables friendship, and same with cocktails, which I also appreciate you mentioning.
So do it yourself, and it's what
we do.
No. It's what we do here in Budapest. We do it ourselves, and we enjoy. You enjoy it even more. Moreover, you share, and you can develop fantastic enjoyment of life and diversify the taste, the quality, the biodiversity. You don't need to construct fake biodiversity like that. It could happen in reality.
Wait, when you say do it yourself, can I ask you, what do you really mean by yourself?
I mean me, you, together, self-organization.
Yes. Okay.
We localize our production, we diversify our production, and I am involved in such projects here in Budapest, and there are things flourishing all around the world. Yes. Reappropriating what do we produce, how, for what kind of use, in a much more local way, sustainable way, convivial way, transparent way, and to exchange it in a fair way. So you don't need to commodify. What you need is to exchange it. Like I love reciprocity economy. I love gift.
You've got a problem with the division of labor, I get it. but what I've never understood, and maybe you can help me on this, why is it you think commerce is beautiful if it's just you and me in a small local community, but if you take the products of that and expand it out more broadly and then export it to another country where they too can enjoy it, that then becomes exploitative and corrupt? How does that happen?
Look at the quality of the products, how it declined with commodification and globalization in the last decade. In the 1970s, you bought food, it was much more local, it was much more tasty, it was much more sustainable. Now you buy something which travels by airplane, no taste anymore, huge environmental footprint, huge exploitation, destruction of the soil. So how to reappropriate that? But I could say the same with everything, clothes. The quality of the clothes totally declined in the last decade. If you find back a jean from your parents or your grandfather from the 1970s, you will still be able to wear it, it will be good. No, you buy a jean, after 2 years, it goes to planned obsolescence. It's dying. Because of what? Because of an economic system which is alienating us, because you need to make the business always work. You cannot sell long-lasting things because you will go to bankruptcy with your company. And that's why we have to redesign and go out of this slavery of an economic system which is dictating nonsense way of life. We have to reappropriate, again, what do we produce? We have to reappropriate our activities. We have to reappropriate our free time. We should be liberated with what my colleagues, engineers, managed to do, increase radically the effectiveness of what we produce, the productivity. And in fact, we are working more than in middle age. We are much more stressed. We don't have any free time, anything to do anything else than to look at our machine, book an air ticket, and to travel for 2 days, go back to work, and so on. How to slow down to reappropriate meaningful life. Again, that's the key question, key challenge of the 21st century, considering as well that we reach the physical limits of our model of civilization, and collapse has already started, and will accelerate if we don't slow down, if we don't enjoy life, if we don't talk to each other and find solutions on a local way with solidarity.
I'm so grateful for everything you're saying. I don't think I've ever encountered anything like this in live action before. So we want to go back to the 1970s. So if I came and confiscated every cell phone and shut down the internet, how many here would feel richer and better off, living a better life? Better life, better life, better life? Without the internet, without cell phones? Okay, not that.
Quite some balance here.
I think this attitude is essentially reactionary and a little bit Rousseauian and illusory. I think you're weaving a real tale that has nothing to do with reality. The truth is that in the free market, including global commerce, we encounter each other every day. I like the idea of a global community, right, cooperating together towards our mutual betterment and prosperity. I'm against war also. I'm against states. For God's sake, I'm an anarchist, all right?
Let's have an agreement on that.
So, you know, but commerce is, to me, an answer to how you live a better life. And since the 1970s, we've seen global poverty plummet at a rate much greater than we've ever seen in recorded history because of the triumph of the free market.
No, that's because of China. 600 million Chinese being taken out of poverty
by
communists.
Well, that's wait a minute. The communists, so-called communists in China, seem to be more pro-capitalist than the American president, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the liberation of China has been a glorious thing, and also, by the way, the collapse of communism in 1989, including in this country, has liberated I don't know, a billion people. It's been a glorious thing. The growth we've seen since the end of the communist tyranny, and that goes for China too, but all over Eastern Europe, has been a miraculous and beautiful thing to say. I'm just pleading with you, do not listen to the prophets of doom. The world is getting better and more beautiful, and that means more opportunity for you, a greater, more dignified life for you, more choice for you. If you want to scale back, and I think it's a good idea, right? I mean, scale back, own less, be less in debt. These are all beautiful things, but let's make it your individual choice. Let's reject the prophets of doom who want to impose a plan to take away our prosperity and to turn back the clock to, for God's sake, the 1970s. I don't want to go back. Humanity will never go back. We're never going to embrace this plan. Thank God.
For sure, we will never go back. But it's time to construct the world of tomorrow, of today. Facts matters. Subjective well-being never increased in the 1970s. Economic growth kept on increasing with damaging the environment, with more extractivism on resources which are limited, but subjective well-being didn't increase. It even started to decrease in countries like the United States for a certain part of the society. The same with life expectancy, which is usually one of the main arguments toward economic growth. Life expectancy is no peaking. It has already started to decline for the poorest people in the United States and Western Europe. So it's time to go out of this model of society which believes that always more means necessarily better, but to go out of a quantitative approach of what is meaningful life to a qualitative approach. Yes, you can get opportunities to get bullshit jobs in corporation, but there are more and more converging studies, and the corporations are facing more and more problems to recruit young people like you, because the people don't want anymore to sit in front of a computer, fill Excel files without any meaning, what we call a bullshit job. They want to have meaningful life. They want to have a time in their life when they work with their hands, they work with their brains, they work with each other. It's about conviviality, it's about enjoying the short time we have to spend on this planet. We get birth, we're going to die. What will we do with that? How do we enjoy that? And facts matter again. We cannot negotiate with the environment with physics. I am an engineer first. Collapse has already started. I'm sorry to say, you will be the generation which will face this very frightening time and maybe challenging and a time of enjoyment of life, when you will have to redesign based on what we learned from the past, based on what we could get thanks to this period of development. We get a lot of things. We are much more productive. We could save a lot of time to develop our brain, to develop our knowledge, develop our technique, but it's about reappropriating these techniques, this knowledge, these know-hows, not to make growth for growth, but to make well-being. If I have 1 more minute,
sure.
I will give you an example. It's what we call the counterproductivity of development. Sooner or later, when you develop a new technology, a new technique, a new institution, whatsoever, you reach a level of counterproductivity. You create, like, for example, a car to increase your speed while traveling. But behind, you develop the usage of the car, so you develop a whole infrastructure which makes you depend on that car. And where you were on foot, going 5 kilometers per hour, you develop the car infrastructure, so you use your car, and you need your job to work, to pay for your car, which have an environmental impact and everything. And you end up, if you calculate how much time you need to work to pay your car and the infrastructure going on, how many kilometers you make and how much time you need for that, you end up with the average speed of the usage of a car, which is around 5 kilometers per hour, as quick as if you go on foot. Which doesn't mean that we should get rid of all the technologies, but we should reappropriate the usage of the technology. Now we are living in large cities where you are developing always more and more smarter green technologies to go quicker in the transport, but you keep on living further because of real estate speculation, because of imaginary and so on. So you spend much more time in traveling than a few decades ago, but you are much quicker and you consume more and you're not happier. So we have to rethink what is technology, to rethink what is economy, to rethink what do we produce, to rethink how we produce it for what kind of basic needs we want to fulfill, and to do it in a way which is meaningful, not to do it in a way that is profitable.
Thank you very much. Please.
Vincent, it's not clear to me what's your viewpoint regarding what is the solution. Is it an individual change, or is it change of society by legislative power? If the democracy and capitalism gives freedom to choose, then what's the problem with that if I can decide to live less and I have the freedom to live less?
You need transformation on different levels, starting from a cultural transformation, which is already happening. There are a lot of very interesting converging surveys all around the world of people who start to understand that on one hand, we face the physical limits to growth. People start to see the consequences of climate change, biodiversity loss, and this type of things. Also, people start to understand that to consume always more doesn't make me necessarily happy. I want to slow down. I want to reappropriate free time for my children, for my friends, for my activities, for things I really love and everything. So cultural change, followed by changes in habits. What we can also see, people start to consume differently. Like you take your bike, you eat less meat, but you eat local, seasonal, good quality, organic food, and so on. Again, less but better. Also, there are very interesting dynamics which are really fundamental about collective creativity. Collectively, there are a lot of projects happening right now in the world, experimenting what could be the world of tomorrow, around local initiatives like community-supportive agriculture, like do-it-yourself, like local currency, like local exchange system, like transition network, and so on. There is really a large diversity and a lot of creativity and enjoyment of life in this experimentation. And it's not like an invention, it's not in theory. It's happening here, right now, and we can learn a lot from that. And finally, you also need a system change. We need to redesign our economic institution, political institution, which have become totally discredited and obsolete. I even don't speak about representative democracy, which is not working at all anymore. We have to rethink what is democracy. We have to rethink also what is the economy. Economy is out of control. You speak with the bankster nowadays, they don't know where is the money going through. There is such a huge speculative bubble that everybody lost control of the track of what's happening. Economy is totally disconnected to the reality of the real act of exchanging and producing and everything. So we have a lot of ideas and proposals like unconditional basic income, for example, to liberate us from capitalism and reappropriate free time, to disconnect the need to accept a bullshit job to the fact that you have an access to all the minimum what you need to have a decent and enjoyable life.
Thank you, Vincent.
I would only say that, that poverty is not a good path to having more free time. If you want more leisure, there's a way to get it. You buy it with wealth. It's very strange to me. You say things like, well, we need to live in a society where we consume less meat. Well, you know what? Okay, again, that's your choice. But where you don't have a choice is in a place like Venezuela, where they're out of meat. They've eaten all the pets that remain in the entire country. It's like mandatory vegetarianism. I don't think that that is a good life. I think that's actually miserable life. Poverty doesn't create anything but suffering and misery, and I don't think it's beautiful. I think wealth and capitalism is glorious. And by the way, I understand that there are people, even now, who don't understand where wealth comes from. You ever ask yourself that question? Where does wealth come from? The ancient philosophers never understood it. Like Aristotle was mystified. He thought the only way you could get wealth was by stealing it from some other people. It wasn't really until Adam Smith's great book, Wealth of Nations, came along that he explained where wealth comes from. It's very interesting. Do you know the answer? The answer is actually slightly boring. Progress. Natural resources? That's wrong. I'll just give you the answer. I'm going to leave it at that. The division of labor.
Someone said that, actually.
That's it. Oh, congratulations.
Next
the wider the market, the more the wealth. That's it.
Next question, please, sir.
Why would we trust actually corporations when they knew already in the 1980s the effects of the climate change and try to hide it? And how come you are against Donald Trump, but you're repeating his talking points?
His talking points?
Exactly.
I've never heard Trump...
But fair.
I've never heard Trump defend freedom, not even one time. This guy is a defender of his own personal dictatorship. I have no affections for this guy. He's destroying the worldwide division of labor, actually. The attacks on China, the attacks on Mexico, the attacks on Canada, the attacks on Europe. I mean, this is a disaster. He shares in common with certain other reactionaries the desire to turn back the clock. I'm completely against that. So, in fact, I've written a whole book about this. So that's one thing. I won't be accused of repeating Trump's talking points. I think, again, the problem of CO2 emissions is a technological problem that we're seeking to solve. Give it time, the market will solve it.
Okay, next question.
Okay.
Sir.
Hi. I'd like to read you a quote from Ron Paul, ex-congressman and libertarian political commentator. So, quote, "The Green New Deal is further proof that climate change for progressive Democrats is much like terrorism for neoconservatives, a ready-made excuse to expand government and crucial liberty." So I would like to hear your thoughts, especially yours, Vincent, on how much do you think the Green New Deal by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would actually seize governmental control on major US industries like car production or air travel? Thank you.
It's not about control, it's about emancipation. It's not about deciding for the people what is good or not good. It's about responsibilizing ourselves in understanding that when I do something, it has an impact. I am against the idea, for example, to forbid people to drive the pickup truck in the cities. But I invite them to be adults, responsible. If you want to drive your pickup truck, go to Iraq, make war, go home with some oil, make your refinery, make your oil when you need for your pickup truck, construct your truck, get all the resources you need for that, and so on. Care about how to dismantle it at the end of the life, and so on. And you're going to be free. And maybe, if you understand that, you will reconsider the idea to drive your pickup truck. You will be emancipated, and you will take a meaningful decision. And you will say that bike is freedom, pickup truck is slavery. It's an impact that I don't accept anymore. It belongs to the past. And unfortunately, division of labor made us blind. It made economists not understand what is energy. It made engineers not understand what is economy. It made politicians not understand anything about anything. So we have to kill this division of labor and to go more to interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary approaches, and to understand the fact that we live on the planet which is called the Earth, which have some limited environmental dynamics, which receive a lot of energy from the sun, but you cannot do whatever you want with that energy. Energy is about entropy. Energy has limits, and you don't make an omelette without breaking eggs. And we have to decide collectively what kind of omelette do we want to cook, and do we accept the price to pay for that?
Where's my fainting couch? I agree with Ron Paul. I'll just leave it at that.
I just want everybody to give these two gentlemen a huge round of applause for a fantastic discussion. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.